You're watching the Talk Mini, and I'm your host CJ. Welcome back to another album ranking. And today's album ranking will be of Bolt Thrower, one of the best death metal bands of all time, one of my favorites. I did rank them back in like 2020 when it was like when I did that whole death metal month thing, and yeah, I don't like my old videos, so I thought I'd re-rank it, and yeah, that was one of the more hated videos, so I thought, well, I'd revisit it. I'd revisit the concept of ranking Bolt Thrower and making a better quality one. So this is better quality than the last one, more structured. So yeah, let's get into it. Number eight, because they have 8 studio albums. I consider 7 of them being perfect. Mercenary from 1998. I just really don't connect with this album like I do the others, and that's basically why this one's last. It has some badass songs, but drags on way too long. It's kind of like it's an album that sticks around too long and kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth when the songs just keep going and going and going and going. You're basically just wanting, yeah, it's just way too long. It sticks around for too long. So I feel like this album had more. If this album had more energy, I'd be more into it. It's more of like just dead, just completely just no energy to it. It's kind of bland, and I'd like it better. But yeah, there's still some good moments here. There's still some big moments. Yeah, but those good moments kind of get overshadowed by the dragging along. Best song is Powder Burns. I like that song quite a lot. I like the whole chuggy, like the chuggy section that's in that song, and yeah, it's just an absolutely great song. That's a change from the last one. Number 7, In Battle, There Is No Law from 1988. This one isn't last like it was in the original ranking. Listening to this album has made me appreciate it more. Raw death metal grindcore mix that this album has shows the evolution of the band. When listening to the ones that come after this, you kind of will hear a lot of the evolution that this band went through. This album was original for its time and is a classic. 10 out of 10. My favorite song is Challenge for Power. Just an absolutely great song there. I like this album. I really do. I think it's a perfect album. There's nothing bad on it at all. I don't hate anything on it. I don't dislike anything on it. It's just number 7 because they have 6 other ones that are better. Number 6 is kind of a controversial one to have this low, which is Realm of Chaos. The one that came right after In Battle There's No Law. Basically, like the one that just came right after that. From 1989, Bolt Thrower's sophomore release is where their well-known sound starts to show. This album came out around the time as some of the other classic death metal releases, from the likes of Obituary with Slowly We Rot, Death with the first 2 Death albums, Pestilence with those 2 albums that came 88 and 89. Pestilence had 2 albums, and then Morbid Angel in 1989 with Mortal Rites, I think it was. With it being released at this time, it's perfect, and it has that early death metal sound that I love. It's basically part of that era of death metal, and yeah, it's a product of its time, and it's really good. But yeah, I just prefer a lot of the stuff that came after it. This album has the bouncy death metal guitar tone that they're known for, but has blast beats, which later releases do away with in some parts. The guitar blast beats kind of stick around and later on, but not really that much. But yeah, this album was an album in the early days of death metal, and it shows. Perfect album. Any of these albums up above this is perfect as well. perfect all the way through. My favorite song is Plague Bearer. Such a great song. Yeah, there's a shit ton of tracks to choose from for which ones are which one's my favorite, but there's a lot to choose from on that one. Number 5 is a controversial one. It was higher on my last list, but it went down. Those Once Loyal from 2005, the last one that they ever released. This album has some really big songs and is really memorable in the discography, but yeah, there's 4 albums that are better in my opinion. The tone of this album is big and the riffs are on another level. Why is it at number 5? Because I prefer this album. I prefer the albums above it in the ranking. Just that's it. Honestly, that's it. This album doesn't sound as heavy as their previous albums, which maybe that's why I prefer the 4 above. But that doesn't really matter with this album being perfect. I think it's perfect the way it is, but my favorite song is The Kill Chain. If you've ever heard that song, you know exactly why it's my favorite, because it's just, yeah, that song is just absolutely fucking amazing. I forgot to show it, but yeah, I have this one. I have this on copy as a CD as well. Number 4 is kind of a controversial one to have at number 4. It's usually like people's last. Honor, Valor, Pride. This one is Bolt Thrower's most underrated and underappreciated album. I think this album sounds awesome, and I have a positive reaction to it. Most fans don't like it. Yeah, and they have it towards the bottom usually when they do a list like this. I did as well in the first video. I didn't really like this album too much until I listened to it a couple more times after, and re-listening to this album has changed my mind on it. Give this one another listen. Really, give this one another listen. You're not hearing something, or you just don't like what you're hearing. But yeah, honestly, I missed a lot of stuff when I first listened to this album back in like 2018, 2019, and then 2020. Yeah. My favorite part about this album is it's the heaviest album that they've done. It really is. And the most melodic album. It has a lot of like melodic parts to it and is more melodic than their previous releases, but yeah. 10 out of 10, my favorite song is The Seventh Offensive. That song is absolutely fucking amazing. I love every second of that song. It is their best song. I gotta move the list. Number 3 is going to be War Master from 1991. And yes, one of the 1991 releases, which in my opinion is the best year for death metal. You had Malevolent Creation at that time releasing. You had Cannibal Corpse releasing. You had a lot of stuff. You had a lot of bands releasing albums in 1991, and they usually were the best of their discography. Not with Bolt Thrower, in my opinion, but this one is pretty fucking good. And the album has no flaws whatsoever, and is one I go back to quite often. One of my first choices to go back to when I listen to Bolt Thrower. While not being Bolt Thrower's best album, it's one of their best. War Master has an amazing death metal sound that reminds me why I love the genre. The tone to the album is better than the previous in every way and shows why Bolt Thrower is so legendary. I do prefer the tone of this album to their previous two, 1988 and 1989's albums. I definitely prefer this tone better, and yeah. The best song is What Dwells Within. Absolutely brutal song there. And yeah, love this album as well. I love every single one they did, basically. Even the one that I put at the last position I still quite like. Number 2 is For Victory from 1994. You already know what number 1 is probably right now. And yeah, this one was a tie originally. This album is their most popular album and is usually people's favorite. I know a lot of people's favorite is For Victory, but yeah, I prefer, yeah. I can understand why. A hard-hitting death metal classic that perfectly executes all of what death metal fans are looking for when listening to death metal. This album is a must listen, honestly. It's a must listen for people, for anyone trying to get into death metal. This was my introduction album to Bolt Thrower, so yeah, it has some special sentimental there. Yeah, first, and this was also one of the first death metal albums I ever listened to as well. So, yeah, all the songs are straight fire. Honestly, all the songs are straight fire. 10 out of 10. The title track is an absolute. It's an absolute beast. Honestly, the title track for this for Victory is an absolute beast. Go check that one out. Go check this album out if you've never listened to this one. Yeah, if you're watching here, you probably have listened to that album before. And number one, or the best Bolt Thrower album, in my opinion, is The Fourth Crusade. Yeah, one of my favorite death metal albums of all time, and my favorite Bolt Thrower album. This, in my opinion, is where Bolt Thrower's sound came together in the biggest way. 52 minutes of pure death doom. I said death doom because it has doom elements to it, and they kind of went like, what was it? Like they want Death Doom. They want Death Doom on this album for this one. It's more slow moving, it's more hard hitting, it's more brutal that way. And yeah. It's what Mercenary was, but yeah, Mercenary was the same way. It was more of like a doomy like vibe on Mercenary, but this one is more interesting and done much better. Um This is one of the best sounding albums I have ever heard, and the song list is the best quality of any Bolt Thrower album ever. Honestly, back-to-back bangers all the way. All the tracks hit hard. 10 out of 10. If there's any perfect album, this one is the perfect album. Yeah, my favorite Bolt Thrower song ever is on this one, and it is the Fourth Crusade title track. Yeah, that one's just an absolute beast. Absolutely beast song. So yeah, Fourth Crusade is my favorite Bolt Thrower record. So that's how I rank Bolt Thrower. And yeah, I hope everyone liked it, and I will see everyone whenever I decide to upload again. And so yeah, stay